So good evening or good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. As soon as I said that, I thought, oh my God, that's probably not correct, but it is for me. So it's good to see so many faces, new and existing, older, friendly faces that we've had in our group coming over many years. But it's great to see so many of you joining us here tonight. So tonight's speaker, I have lovely banter with Andre. I always call him my famous friend because he is famous in his Brazilian world of being a Kanban trainer. Look at it, he's being modest now, but I always call him my famous friend. But Andre is originally from Brazil, and he's a talented Agile coach and trainer, but is currently working over in the US, somewhere over near Baltimore. I got really excited when I read Bel Air, but actually apparently there's multiple places called Bel Air, so I haven't got to worry about him sitting in some mansion on his own somewhere. Okay, but I'd like to introduce him tonight. He's going to be talking to us all about Kanban. So let's give him a warm welcome, Andre Suman.
Thank you, Ellen, the Kanban queen, as you know, right? And well, I'm Brazilian. I'm not an English native speaker, so I apologize in advance for my mistakes. I moved to US 2 years ago, so I'm trying to improve my English. Now I have an honor for my England friends. So it's kind of weird to have just one star in my jersey. I usually have 5, but that's okay. And then this is the case I will share with you when I worked as an Agile coach in a big international bank in Brazil. So you will figure out what is the relation with squirrels and everything. So may I start, Helen?
Take it away, Andre. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. And it's very good for me when I can present and see your faces, because I see when I'm talking if everything is fine, your head's shaking and something. So if you are comfortable turning on your video, it supports me very much. So thank you for that. So the presentation is Kanban, Squirrels, and an alternative path to agility. Well, I'm Andre Suman. I'm an Agile coach. I work in BRQ, a company from Brazil, and we have operations in US as well. And I'm also a Kanban trainer and AKT from Kanban University. So I teach the Kanban certifications. You find me at Andre Suman in social media, Twitter, Instagram, and my website is andresuman.com. So what was this scenario in this case? As I said, a large international bank in Brazil. 70% of the projects there of operations in IT were agile at that point, and 30% waterfall. They had more than 200 teams working with Scrum. It is Scrum, but something not defined. And I don't know if you have this expression in English, but we use it to say in Portuguese, the go horse. That is just keep going. Let's do something like crazy. We are not thinking in anything. We are just delivering. So good to know that you have the go horse expression as well. And more than 5,000 people involved in this IT area in this case. I was an Agile coach in this bank with other Agile coaches, and was a huge operation, as you can see. And I was like an advisor. I didn't have specific team that I was working very close. I was not responsible for the delivery. I was responsible as an Agile coach to introduce Agile practice and support these teams. And some teams had some dissatisfaction. They start talking with me. Oh, Andre, we understand that what is Scrum, we had a training course, something, but in our squad, in our team, it's hard to have tasks ready for a 2-week batch. The business here, it changes very fast, and we can't create a batch to work during the sprint. We have production bugs. We need to support the system. So even when we planned something, at a point, the day after, everything changed because we need to support these production bugs and other things that business area are always talking to us. At some point, we need the work needs enough team member. So we start doing the job. At some point, we need another area, sometimes in another country, to complete the job. And then since they complete the job, we get it again to deliver. So how we can go to a planning meeting and estimate something, because the job is not getting done in our team itself. We need to share with another teams and continue the job later. And we also have specific skills here. So we have different companies working with the bank. And at some point, we have specialists in backend, front end, user experience. And since we try to create a sprint, we can't have work for everybody because it depends what kind of demand we have on that sprint. So the Scrum framework was not a fit for purpose in this environment. But the methodology area, they have a governance in the bank trying to create this agile method for the bank, saying you must use Scrum. So at that point, agility was a sign-on of Scrum for them. And as we know, Scrum as a framework is a tool, but if you use the wrong tool for the challenge you will have problems. So they are always with these dissatisfactions talking to me. And I said, okay, I have something for you, but let's pretend we are doing the time boxes. So I know we'll have the governance area and everything around, people taking a look in a strategic perspective, looking in Jira and everything these 200 teams have. I will create the sprint in Jira because we need to create that. But I will start the sprint in the first day of the month, and we will close the sprint by the end of the month. And just to have the sprint opened in Jira, but we will not working like planning in a time box and everything. Just so people don't bothering us, just, oh, you have the sprint. Did you open the sprint? Yes, I have the sprint. Here's the sprint. And so how I felt at that moment, I was the drug dealer in that situation. I was always saying, oh, let's do something, but don't say it so loud. I'm trying to help you, but just creating Jira, the sprints and everything, and let's see what happens. And in this particular situation, we use a static. I think you know what is static. The Kanban people know that the system thinking approach to introduce Kanban. I created my own static. In a translation here, a free translation is like, Suman trying a Ford team implement Kanban. So in Portuguese is Suman tentando ajudar o time a implementar Kanban. It's just a joke about the name because we didn't use static itself. How I show teams what is Kanban, how they can start some practice to support the environment they were during the software development. I created this. This is what I call the Kanban picture. With Kanban picture, I try to show for a team some practice and how they can start using Kanban, some of the Kanban general practice. So when I introduced this to the teams and I presented for the Scrum Masters at the point, and they said, it looks like it makes sense. So I have the Kanban picture here in my personal blog. It's translated in 5 languages. So we have in Portuguese, English, French, Spanish, and German. And if you want to translate it for another language, just get in touch if we can translate that. I'm very proud to have a Kanban picture here behind me in a frame with David Anderson's signature. So it was endorsed and people like to understand Kanban using the picture. I will show to you how I explain to the teams using this picture. So we created just a sample here for the flow. And we start with functional items. What is the thing that I include in the card? What represents a card, an item in my Kanban? We have these animals here. As I say, between dogs and camels, everything are animals. We avoid rats and avoid elephants. So what's the point here? The size of the user stories, we don't care a lot about that. Just it was extremely huge or extremely little. But between camels and dogs, everything are animals, and we just include a user story in our flow. At some point, we will do the replenishment. And what is the replenishment? When you commit to another functional item. So it's like a wedding. You are getting married with that demand. So we start doing that because we cross the commitment point here. This is pretty much what they used to have as a planning. They were committed with some new items, but at this point was not a meeting. It's just we will commit with different items since they arrived, since it's important, not in a regular basis like in the sprints. And every day we will have the Kanban meeting. And they use it to have the daily meeting, just answering what I did, if something is blocking me, do I have impediments? And we start with the Kanban meeting as in Kanban we used to have, going from right to left in the board and talking about the work items, not about people. I don't care who is doing anything. I care to deliver working items. So from right to left, of course, items in the right are pretty much done. Just something, we need just something little to get it done. So we start talking about the items on the right. So we get these items done and going to the left, saying what we are going to do to deliver this. At some point, things get done. So we have a presentation, a demonstration, as we had in sprint reviews. Retrospectives, every 2 or 3 weeks, we did retrospectives again, not in a weekly basis. It's just, no more than a month, but we can set the retrospective at the moment we understand that we deliver a big feature or something. So we will talk about that in a retrospective. We introduced the WIP limits, the work in progress limits. Working in a one-way flow, so we can see how the flow is going and just getting items done in the workflow. We start with some easy metrics to collect, like the CFD is just count how many cards you have in each column every day. The throughput, the lead time, just writing when the work item started, when it finished. the explicit policies. So we had a physical board, and we wrote everything about how we work here. Where is the QA environment? What time is the daily meeting? So we have all these explicit policies on the side of the board. The service delivery manager, as we were not working with Scrum anymore, people said, but what happened with the Scrum Master? So in Kanban, we don't have a role, but we can call them service delivery manager, okay? Then you feel better. And then, okay, that was fine. And sometimes you are working with dogs, camels, horses, and appears a tiger in fire, right? So the tiger in fire was the class of service. We understand that we can have work items that need to be an expedite or to deliver in a particular date. So they start using this general practice with Kanban. And this is an actual picture from the team. You see they have a physical board, they have daily meetings, and I was always trying to support them on that. And the Jira was just something fake at that point. You see, we start using metrics. It's in Portuguese here, but we have the lead time histogram. This is for the expedite work items. So they were not used to have metrics for the team. All the metrics they had was something the bank was just saying, we need to use these metrics, we need to use these metrics. And they didn't see at that point that the metric was useful from them. And at this point, looking at the workflow, the CFD, the lead time, they start saying, oh, this metric is good. Then we can see how we improve every week based on metrics. And what were the results for these teams we started? They said, oh, now it's more flexible because using the time box, we felt like we were in a prison. And now we can just get another work item. Let's work with that. We have production bugs we need to fix. The daily meeting, they said, oh, now it's effective. Now we discuss about the work and how get things done. At that point, we were just having a status report. That doesn't make sense. The urgent items, the expedite items, we are solving that quickly. So it makes sense when we have the tiger in fire, just crossing our board, and we can deliver the value for the business with that. As I said, the useful metrics, they were collecting metrics because they want, not because somebody said, you need to collect this metric and the number you need to have is this number. No, we will collect metrics because this is useful in our environment and for our retrospective. They identified some bottlenecks about the job getting done outside the team, and the visual management using the physical board was something that they said was very good to have a team environment and not a person doing the job environment. And that is what happened with the Squirrels. We started with one team, and at some point, the team next to this one said, what is happening here? I see Andreas here talking to you. Looks like you have a different kind of daily meeting. And I explained to the team what is this Kanban practice and said, could you support us doing that? I think in our environment, this makes sense. And then you see the neighbors talking to each other in the company. We were in the office at that point, was before the pandemic, was actually 2018, 19. And what is the deal about the Squirrels? Do you know this place, right? This is Helen's kingdom. So in 1945, you had red squirrels right here, and the gray squirrel is just a small part. The gray squirrel is from North America, and the red squirrel is from UK, England. So what happened? It's like the Charles Darwin that we understand in biology in our school. It's when you are fit for the environment, when the gray squirrel, he is bigger, he eats more, he's more fat, he can hold in the winter better than the red squirrel. So this is biology. This is the evolutionary of the species. The gray squirrel now is in the most part of UK. And this is the relation about the Kanban in that environment. Kanban was more fit for purpose for that teams. So Kanban starting as the squirrels, just another team, another team makes sense for another, makes sense for another, and we start with 1 or 2 teams, and in 6 months we have more than 30. But remember, I was the drug dealer at that point. We were doing something that was not in the Agile framework for the company. And then we start with training courses, people get involved with Kanban. This is a training course, not a Kanban university training. At the point, I was not an AKT, just small workshops about Kanban, presenting the Kanban picture, and people get involved on that. And at some point, of course, people from the governance, from the agility team in the company said, what the hell are these guys doing right there? We don't have Kanban in our Agile framework. But at that point, people from business, the manager from this business area, they said, I don't care what these guys are doing. We are better than we were before. I don't care if they call it Kanban, Scrum, Agile, Red Squirrel. It doesn't make sense for the business. For me, they are delivering. Teams are happy about that. So what we are going to do? If you can beat them, join them. So of course, we have people in this, the heads of the Agile framework said, oh, okay, so they are delivering value. So let's understand what they are doing and let's include this in our Agile framework here in the company. So they include Kanban in the company Agile framework at that point. We support them to create a Jira for Kanban teams. So with no sprints, just a Jira with a workflow that team can do the value stream mapping and create their own workflow. We start getting the Kanban metrics because at the point I was using an Excel spreadsheet, just looking at the physical board. And of course, they create some tools integrated to Jira for the Kanban metrics, and was then an official alternative to Scrum here in our company. So before they start new teams or new operations, they were taking a look if the project was something that Scrums can hold. If you can use Scrum, you will use Scrum because we are more familiar with that. If you can't use Scrum because you have different situations, we can try using Kanban as a flow. And then we were more not illegal anymore. We were during in the company environment and the company Agile framework. And I'm very happy to say that this case was the Brazilian Agility Award 2019 in this company. And if you have questions, I'm happy to to answer. I don't know if I can understand all the questions, so let's speak a little slowly for me, please. And thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Vlad. And I wish you understood something that I said.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Andre. Let's give him a round of applause as much as we can do online. Okay, so let's open up the questions. What questions have you got about the case study that you've seen? What things are on your mind? If you feel free to just come off mute and ask yourself, or if you don't want to, pop it in the chat channel and we'll always ask it for you. Okay, so what questions have we got? Pop your hand up if you've got one.
So, Andre, I have a question with regards to the metrics that we captured. So was the histogram and the other metric, was that the only two things that we captured, or was it more to it?
The metrics were the CFD, the cumulative flow diagram,
okay,
and the lead time histogram. To get the metrics, we did in a physical board. So every day after daily meeting, the Agilists from that squad, they write the number of the work items in the board. So after that, I just write an Excel to get the CFD. And every time we committed with a new work item, they wrote in the paper the date. And then they get done, they wrote again. So it was very simple, because writing the date you begin and you finish, you have the lead time. And getting how many cards you have every day in the board, in each column, you have the CFD. So it was pretty much about that. I don't know if I answered your question, man.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I was just trying to see, was it anything more additional to the standard Kanban metrics that we know? So anything more that you...
At that point, no. I always say, if you don't have anything, start with the CFD, because you can have the other metrics based on CFD, like the average lead time, the WIP limits. So we started just with that, but with that simple metrics. Of course, they had some metrics that the company was getting from the squads, like how many I don't know how do you say in English, but the estimation points, how do you say?
Story points.
Story points? Oh, okay, story points. How many story points we do in a sprint? And I said, okay, include everything between 5 and 15 for each story. It's between camels and dogs. doesn't matter. That we will not spend time with that. And just to get that, we don't want in the beginning that people get attention with us. What are these guys doing? We just started with Kanban, faking a lot of things that they expected that we have.
Okay, thank you.
Brilliant, thanks, Anil. Dale, you've got a question? See your hand?
Yeah, I'm fascinated about the organization you were in. You were able to fake Scrum. You set up sprints within Jira. Did you populate them with the stories?
Yeah. But at the point, we created the backlog in Jira, the backlog we had for the Kanban. What is the point? We start the sprint just with our WIP limit for that time. Mm-hmm. So since the sprint starts on day 1 and finish on day 30, day 1, we get just what we can work as our WIP limit. And so day 5, day 6, we are all getting new work into the sprint. So if you get a metric to compare what we planned in the sprint planning that was fake, and we delivered, we planned 3 items and we delivered 25, because we are all including items on that sprint. At some point, they call it, we are getting planning on demand. It's like the replenishment. They were just getting, let's do a planning meeting, okay? Okay, we finished the work. Okay, let's do a planning meeting again. Just doing the replenishment.
So in the organization, who was the product owner, for example? Who was giving you the work? Were they part of the fake Scrum plan? Yeah. So so that was good. So there was nobody from the governance side was asking too many questions.
Yeah, exactly. What was the point? The product owner saw the benefits of that.
No.
Because what was the problem? I, as a product owner, I need to have a batch to work for 2 weeks. But the other day, I need something else to do. And that's the problem, because always people say, oh, but we had a sprint planning, we don't have these items. And I said, okay, product owner, you will make your decision as late as we can. Just give us the job for now, and we will thinking about the next items. When you finish that, and this is the pull system, right? We say, okay, yeah, product owner, give me one more, and then he decides. So that's the product owner was part of the plan.
That's a really good point. Sometimes we forget that it's a big effort for a product owner to come up with 2 weeks of work up front. You know, it's much better to do it bit by bit. Cool, thank you.
We've got a question in the chat channel from Rita. Good to see you, Rita. It says, who else got involved besides the dealer? That's yourself as the main drug dealer there, Andre. She just wondered if you had any kind of like people peddling it out on the corners there for you, or did you have a higher level cartel member, maybe some leadership supporting you? I was just keeping with the metaphor there, Rita. I hope I did it justice.
We had another Agile Coach. So I have some other drug dealers on this journey. But what was the point? We explained it to the business managers responsible for that delivery, what we are going to do. So I explained to them that you are working in a system that you have a lot of problems. I will try to do something different here. You will not have problems with the governance because we can fake what they are looking for. So when we started with that, these guys were our partners, because at the point the governance figured out what we were doing, they had power to say, here we are talking about business. We are not talking about methodology. So these guys are delivering now better than they were before. So you change this methodology right now. So I have these guys behind me just saying, we will do what is working, not what you are saying or trying. It's important. Of course, I was not like a brave man just to say, I will change the bank by myself. And we are going to do Kanban here. I showed the business value.
Brilliant. I've got a question for you, Andre. What out of the kind of like little journey that you went on over the big journey that you went on, what were some of the key lessons that you've learned in the implementation of Kanban in this organization?
First of all, like a Kanban principle, start what you are doing now. So when we're talking with the teams, we just say, as I said, let's do planning on demand, just to get things to get done without a big batch of work items. So starting with what we're doing. And another thing, to start with these metrics, as I said to Anil, to start talking to the product owner, you don't need to have a signature from anybody to start with that. If you have a team, if you are in a company, you can create a CFD using your Excel in your laptop. So using that and saying to people, let's do what's good for our team. And then people will figure out later what makes sense. So another thing that I learned that sometimes you just need I don't know if the word is that, but a goodwill just let's do something. And sometimes you need to be brave as well, just to go against the system, right?
Was there something that didn't work? You wanted to implement something, you wanted to change, but in the end it didn't work?
Good question, Rita. We have so many squads at that time. So at some time, I was not close enough from different teams. And since we started with Kanban and these teams, and they don't have people with expertise in Kanban at the point, the key point was using sprints, we have the time box and we know when we need to deliver. And looks like with Kanban, we do not have that, so we are afraid that we can't deliver. And what was the point? Of course, if the time box is working, if have a target date for the work items are working, you just keep that on Kanban. Keep your cards in Kanban with the date right in the side. This needs to be done by day something. But since I was with so many squads, some of them said, we need to go back to Scrum. We need to create a sprint again because we are not comfortable that we don't have due dates from things here in our flow. So it was a misunderstanding that if I was close enough, I could support. But since it was a lot of teams, I couldn't.
We had a question from Faisal in the chat window. And he says, is it possible to get the whole picture of the project with just Kanban itself for a big project? He does feel that it might be better to have a Gantt chart. We'll let you off for using the G word here, Faisal. And each week, make a Kanban. He says he's sorry if he's wrong. What are your thoughts? How are you using Kanban to scale that in this organization, especially now as we've got more and more teams involved?
They were in a digital transformation. The point that was good that things like the MVP, people were more familiar. So they already understood that the point that they need to deliver software working and not the waterfall way that just developing, testing, everything. So with Kanban, we just pretty much stayed out of the time box. We start working in a chain, right? When you get things done and getting another things to do. So that was not a big deal about the project itself because they were already familiar with the MVP, the planning for just 3 months, not a project for years. So Kanban was like transparent in this situation that.
Hopefully that answers your question. If not, you can always ask another one. Dinara's just posted one. How did you prove that the team performed better using Kanban?
Well, first of all, the product owner were more comfortable. So it was pretty much the product owner like getting crazy with the things using the time boxes, and using Kanban, he was more comfortable. So we, at the point in the beginning, we didn't have like a specific metric for the productivity, but was something that how people are feeling going to work. This was our main metric at the beginning, just to say, we are delivering, we are not getting crazy anymore, so it's better to work like this than we were before. Of course, with the growth of the maturity, you have another metrics and things, but at that point was something just on the beginning.
So a bit more gut feel and conversational at that beginning. But yeah, don't forget you've also got Kanban maturity model to help you there, as with other things. Dale's got another question.
Sorry, I was just diverted by the G word. Did you, or perhaps this is something the product owner might do, did the product owner still maintain something along the line of a roadmap, just to sort of say, well, we want to hit MVP around here, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. Okay.
Yeah, and something that I didn't said during the presentation, Dale, but we did was create an upstream Kanban for the business area. So since the business area understood that to deliver, they need to prepare things and get things in definition of ready to start working, they get the value of Kanban in the business area as well. And we connect everything. So of course, the product owner, they had their own roadmap to deliver. And one of the dissatisfactions were the business area have 6 months to decide what to do. And the IT area have 1 week to deliver what they want. So as we said, that was like a joke I had there. We are having 6 months to choose the pizza we want. And we have 1 minute to make the pizza. So let's start taking a look in end-to-end. So the product owners stayed with us during Kanban meetings and during retrospectives. And since we created an end-to-end flow and they had their own MVPs, they were more comfortable with the roadmap, and something that was very good for them, because the product owner, sometimes they had different things to do that were not in the specification of the starting project. And they felt bad because they said, well, we are doing a lot more we're supposed to do. And by the end of the year, people will say, you don't deliver anything. Okay, I didn't deliver anything from what we supposed to deliver, but we delivered all these other things. So using the metrics, we create the arrival rate and the delivery rate metrics. And then product owners could prove that they were delivering what they supposed to deliver, or things that came during the whole year, breaking that roadmaps at that point. But so I don't know if I answered your question, but it was pretty much like that.
No, you did. Thank you.
Miguel, you've got your hand up. Fire away.
Yeah, I don't actually have a question, but I wanted to say thanks to Andrea for creating the Kanban picture and making it public, of course, because I see from time to time to introduce Kanban to new teams, and that makes it quite easy for them. So yeah, again, publicly.
I appreciate it, Miguel. And I bet Miguel is Brazilian.
Yes. I'm living in Germany quite for a while now, but yeah, I'm Brazilian.
Thank you.
What other questions have we got?
I guess the change is quite difficult, and obviously people resist sometimes to change. And I realize, like in remote working space now, some kind of falls back into the old ways of working, or communication is suffering there. Did you realize anything around that after implementing?
I'm not working there anymore. So I leave before the pandemic. So I don't know exactly what's happening there. But since I'm working with Kanban in BRQ, and I think we need to adapt, because the physical board was the key at that point. If we didn't have that physical board, we didn't have the Jira for Kanban, and in a huge company like that, you just cannot access an internet and let's use this tool here and we'll figure out in Trello or something. So I think we're going to be harder if we were in this remote situation, Rita. But at the point right now, I don't believe you have a company that is just saying we need to use Scrum because Scrum is agile. So I think we have more experience now, and people have more different point of visions that they can just, let's try something else, right?
Brilliant. What other questions have we got? Let's ask all of those questions. Anything that you want to know, get him while he's here.
Hi.
Hello.
Do you hear me?
Yep,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Hi, André.
Hi.
I'm Brazilian like André, and I have one question. What book you recommend for learn more about Kanban methodology?
Yeah, we have the Blue Book from David Anderson, the pioneer of Kanban. The Blue Book, actually the Blue Book in the Portuguese version is not blue, but you have a Kanban University website, kanban.university. You can download the digital version, but we have a free book called Essential Kanban Condensed. And Essential Kanban Condensed, we have in Portuguese as well. I have in my website, the blogdocasé.com.br, you can find for download one. So I always recommend to start the Kanban Essential Condensed. It's free. And if you want, you can buy the Blue Book.
Nice. Thank you.
And Kanban from the inside is good as well, from Mike Burrows.
Nice.
I was just trickily trying to find the link for you, Juan, but it beat me before you finished your question.
I will get here.
Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Anything anyone wants to share? Oh, Dale, you are just hammering those questions tonight.
I'm sorry, it's been a while since I've been on one of these. It's really nice to get the buzz. Andre, do you feel that the company, when they went down the Agile route and decided Scrum, do you think they really just thought of this as a methodology and a set of rules, rather than thinking, what is it that Agile thinking does? And it, you know, did they think just if you had the sprints, you had the stand-ups, you had the retrospectives, they were doing Scrum, rather than understanding what it really meant?
At that point, the digital transformation at that company was revolutionary, not evolutionary, as we say in Kanban. So people woke up someday and a product manager arrived and somebody said, now you are the Scrum Master. But what does Scrum Master do? You are the Scrum Master. We will have training courses here. Now we have squads. You are the Scrum Master. The business person is the product owner. So at that point, they suffer for 2 years because they did a big bang. And I arrived just after these 2 years, they were figuring out what they are going to do. So they were based on Scrum, as I said, but was not pretty much Scrum in most of teams. And they were saying that they were doing SAFe. And I was not familiar with SAFe at that time. So I did the SAFe certification and the training course, just to understand that what they were doing was not SAFe as well. They had just a big manager become the RTE, release train engineer, but people that don't know anything about Agile. So this big transformation, they felt like, so we have some rules. We can understand looking for a sprint if they deliver the sprint target, the sprint stories that they set on planning or not. So these big companies, they have this kind of governance that they need to have to keep things working as they supposed to be, and not like an evolutionary method, learning week after week to understand. So this was the point at that time.
Cool, thank you.
Hi there.
Jadip?
Guys,
Hello?
hi Andre. Yeah, thanks for the talk. So I don't work officially in Scrum or Kanban or any sort of Agile sort of team as such, but I'm personally a big fan of Kanban, so I try and attend some of these workshops, Kanban over Scrum personally. And I've personally always used a Kanban board for the last couple of years for my tasks. So I've sort of always used that. So recently, for the last 6 months, I've the project we did, I've sort of used the Kanban board to go through the whole project, and it's worked quite decently. But I was just wondering, one thing I struggle, maybe because I'm still new to all this, is how do you, because Scrum sprints give you like a deadline to, finish things. So how do you achieve that via Kanban? Like, how can you sort of achieve that objective? Yeah. Cheers.
Okay, so JD, you don't need to change anything is working. So you can work with deadlines for every story that you have. You just include in the board and include that you have the deadline if you are comfortable with that. So you try to flow the item on the board, do the deadline. What is the point? At some point, using metrics, you will figure out that how long an item, the lead time of an item, the time that you spend to deliver an item is not related only with the size of the item. So how this item flows in your board, because you have queues, you have impediments, you have a lot of things that will change how you can deliver something, and you can't think about that during estimations. It's impossible to make an estimation considering everything. Will this item will be blocked at some time? Will this item stay in a queue at some time because another person of the team is doing another thing, and that item is holding until somebody gets to do? And then when you're more comfortable about that, you use statistic to say when you will get things done. So I'm working with a very high maturity team at this point using Kanban, and 90% of our deliveries we deliver in 12 days. So we do not estimate anything. I know that the next item will take, with a 90% confidence, 12 days to get done. So don't stop you doing what is working for you. But at some point, you can get more maturity, then you can stop estimation on taking looking statistics and something like that. So if you are comfortable with the sprint because you have a due date, you can have a due date in Kanban as well, no problem. Just as a sign of low maturity at that point, because you need the estimation, right?
Yeah, I think we are basically just given birth, I think. So thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Is there a final question for Andre?
I have one more. Andre, for starts in this way that you said now, the user story or improvement task needed to had a same time, a same size, because sometimes the product owner maybe put one user story, one bigger user story, and other short user story. How can I lead with this?
So between dogs and camels, everything are animals. I know it's not very intuitive that, but if you use it to estimate your stories, you can do the estimation and compare to the lead time. You will see things that you estimate bigger. The lead time can be more few days than things that you estimate little. because when things get done, it's, as I said, was not a direct relation to the size, but it's a direct relation to the flow. So at the point, what we had, if we have an elephant, a whale, something very huge, we will break in small stories. And if we are in a Scrum team and our estimation is always around 3 points and 15 points, something like that, we just don't care about that. If we are always between this size, so we accept that we have different size. I know you have different size of demands, and in Kanban, we don't need to have equal size for every work item. I know you have different size, but just avoid the big ones and the very small ones. You will see, comparing the lead time with the estimation, that there is not a direct relation with that. Unfortunately, it's not so intuitive, and you need to try, just write the estimation in the work item and compare to the lead time, you will know that.
Nice, thank you.
And Juan, I popped a good blog in there from a guy called Dan Brown. I don't know if you've come across him, but he talks about dry stone walling. He loves a good metaphor, but there's some good insights in that blog as well for you, so you can have a look at.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, it's 7:30. I think, you know, Andre's earned his keep. He's answered a million questions. We've made him sweat a little bit with some of his answers. But I just want to say thank you so much for giving up your time tonight. It's been fabulous to have you along. And I always personally love to hear case studies, because for me, it's all about how we're actually applying it, the journey that we've gone through and the learnings that we've had along the way. And so it's always great to hear a case study. So let's just give it up one more time for Andre.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Very much.